now. And, with that, I'll turn it over to you. I'm sure you've got a lot of valuable information to share with our people. And I'll ask them to hold their questions till the end so that, there's a chat feature that we've activated. If people want to type their questions in there, feel free. You can be anonymous. Type it to me privately, and I can read it out anonymously if you're comfortable with that. So, Dr. Lisa, it's your show. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, and thank you everyone for attending today. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we close out 2020 and what a year it's been and reduce our stress while making meaning both post-election and pre-holiday. And there's a lot of challenges that we haven't faced before. The holiday season often does create challenges for people, but particularly this year, political discussions and election fatigue. If you look at the results, we're a country divided, and no matter which side of the divide you stand on, we are largely divided. And so it's very likely that you share friendships and families with people on the opposite side of the so-called aisle. And the idea of gathering and conversing in an environment that's been politically tense is creating a lot of aversion and fatigue for people. So, and that's one of the challenges coming into the hospital season, holiday season, is there's a lot of fatigue around politics. My number one solution for that is to back out of it a little, consume less news. It's not changing as quickly as the news continues to talk about it. And the more you stay dialed into the news, the more your stress dials up with it. Another common challenge around the holiday season is grief. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time as we go on talking about grief. But grief is particularly relevant this year as we have had an unsurpassed amount of deaths in this year compared to any other year. And we know that grief activates grief. And so if I've had a past loss, being with somebody who's having a current loss connects me back to my own loss. And so with the amount of grief in our current society, that is likely to be a challenge for everyone this holiday. We've been quarantining since March, modifying our behaviors. There is a lot of increase in depression. Jeanette and I were chatting about this. There's an increase in suicides, in anxiety. And so particularly this holiday, while the holidays, we talk about the holiday blues, this is a little different because it adds on the layer of isolation. And holidays usually represent a time of connecting. And even though it's an increase in depression, we actually usually see a downtick in suicides through the November to January period. And they do think that that may be associated with more increased contact with others. And so this holiday, where we actually often look forward to contact with others, we may not be able to get that need met. And so that presents a challenge to us. Maintaining meaningful traditions. For some people, flying to a family member's house, or gathering in large crowds, or having the annual holiday party is very meaningful in terms of the traditions. And so this year it's going to be challenging to reinvent traditions and maintain meaning. Socializing with safety. I mentioned that we have these social needs, and how do we do it with safety? So weighing out the risks associated with socialization versus the rewards. Another challenge for this holiday. Financial strain and food insecurity. I'm going to talk more about this, but we're in a place economically as a country that we haven't ever experienced before. And so as we're coming into the holiday seasons, it's helpful to have awareness that other people are having challenges of trying to figure out how to get the turkey and mashed potatoes even to the table. And I'll talk about making meaning is maybe volunteering at the soup kitchens or donating to groceries. We know in the next several months that COVID-19 rates of infection, death, and hospitalizations are going to rise. That's due to the flu. People are going to travel, whether there's recommendations against or another. There is going to be an increase in travel. There is going to be an increase in gatherings. People are likely to drink and eat more. What does that do? That lowers your judgment when you drink more, so you're less likely to be on your mind with your risk behaviors. If you're eating and drinking, again, you automatically can't be engaged with the mask, so it is increasing the risk. If you're eating poor foods, it can lead to poor sleep and inflammation in your body and lowering your immune system, so leaving us more susceptible for catching an illness. And of course, holiday shopping. So while a lot of that's going online, some studies have shown that malls are among the most contagious places after restaurants when they swab places. I think Aventura Mall was, and one of the ones in Miami, I forget which one it was, had a fair amount of COVID on the surfaces like bathroom doorknobs and stuff. So as we're engaging in these activities and society's engaging in these activities, we are going to see COVID rates rise. And that's really challenging as we are in COVID fatigue, tired of staying on our mind about not touching things and keeping to ourselves and staying out of places. And so people are loosening up, unfortunately, at the same time where the numbers are going up. And so all of it is, as Jeanette and I said, sort of a perfect storm contributing to this crisis. So far, 243 Americans have died as of this month, and that unfortunately increases daily, with millions experiencing grief simultaneously. And that's a big deal. As I mentioned, grief is a big part of holidays, unfortunately, and this year, unlike any others, we will have a lot of grief at the holiday table. There's an inability to honor death in the traditional ways. Sitting Shiva, having funerals, they're very limited. And so our ability to give support in the form of social support, bringing food, is modified as it pertains to honoring death and supporting a family through their grief. So COVID's had a large impact, not just on increasing the depth and the amount of grief that we experience, but in interfering with the traditional ways in which we support the grieving family. It's really important that we give time and space to all of our feelings and recognize it's normal to have anxiety, disappointment, guilt, fear, that they're normal feelings, not to get lost in them, but to make space and recognize that they're there. And to know that holidays and special events activate certain feelings. And so being mindful of that and respectful of everyone's feelings, realizing that, especially for people grieving, being sensitive to feelings. And it can be overwhelming when you're surrounded with a lot of grief. And so trying to maintain a positive mindset, keep positive traditions, and tell positive stories is all part of the healing process. I think for traditions, thinking about traditions that involve your loved one's memory. The first Christmas after my grandmother passed, I made Christmas ornaments with seashells that she had collected and gave them to all of our family members as a way to commemorate her and share something that she had gathered with everyone in the family. And so these little things that make special that person that you've lost, give an honor to the memory and are a positive way to experience and share grief. Telling stories. I think that, imagine Aunt Ruth comes to the Thanksgiving table and it's the first time that Uncle Harry's not with her. And everyone recognizes and misses Uncle Harry's presence, but nobody's talking about it. Aunt Ruth feels profoundly alone in her grief in that moment, even though everybody is recognizing Uncle Harry's absence. And I'm telling you, even if it brings a tear to her eye, Aunt Ruth will benefit from you telling one of your positive memories of Uncle Harry. And so sharing those special memories, don't be afraid to talk about it. It's like suicide. Not talking about it is the problem. So respect the grieving family if they want to exit the conversation or don't feel comfortable, but don't stray away from not bringing up those positive memories and positive thoughts about the lost loved one. In terms of some of our traditions, modify them with a focus on what was the meaningful part. Right? If the meaningful part is family, how do we connect with family without maybe having 27 people at the Thanksgiving table, like would be typical at my house? So we're having to make some modifications and figure out how do we hold on to the meaning and not get lost in replicating the same thing. I think fun ways to honor the family member, if you're at a place where they would have their traditional seating, some places, you know, you always sit in the same seat, setting a place for them, putting pictures of the person at their place sitting, having a little place set up for people to share memories and stories, lighting a candle, choosing a charity in their honor, something they cared about. All of those are great ways to honor the people we've lost around the holidays. And even in terms of gifts, we'll talk later about creative gift giving, but I don't want to forget that making a donation in someone's honor is a really great way to make a gift, and to not add meaningless stuff into our lives, to not have to leave your house and endure the risks of the mall, and to also get a tax write-off in the process. Setting boundaries. I think, again, this is really important if you're grieving to understand what you're capable of doing. If you're just in the holiday seasons, to know when to say no, to be okay with saying no, to be comfortable asking questions about the parameters, to keep your boundaries around sleep, to know what your limits are. If you're considering going to a holiday event, it's okay to ask who's there. It's okay to ask what the expectations are. It's okay to say, you know, maybe part of our normal Thanksgiving is playing my wedding song, and I don't want to hear my wedding song on the first year that my partner's gone. And so it's okay to set expectations for, hey, this year, can we not have this part of the event, and or to modify it. So again, I think grief is something that we really all have to keep a mind to and pay attention to, and particularly to reach out to those for if anyone has not lost people in this year, or recently, to be a good support system to the many who have. I'm getting the tough stuff out of the way before we get into the fun stuff. And this one is navigating political conversations. And while this is probably a little bit easier this week compared to 1 month ago, the rules are still the same. Try and find the common ground. Try and find the areas on which you agree. At all costs, avoid personal insults. Conversations should stick to issues and not be personal. If you find yourself getting heated or upset, take a deep breath, consider walking away, set a boundary. It's okay to say, you know what, this is not a conversation to me, or I don't want to get down the political pathway today, or hey, can we not talk about, or hey, have you heard about this lately? And go prepared with a series of things that you would love to talk about. It might be how your favorite sports team is doing, a new recipe you found. And I find this is one of the best ways of managing those situations, because you keep control. You introduce a topic that's more welcoming to talk about, and you steer the conversation away. It's okay to recognize that a lot of people have feelings about what's going on in our country and the leadership, and whether they're angry or sad about the election outcome. We should respect everyone does have feelings about it, whether they're the same as ours or not, and give respect to those feelings. And again, I said practice how you want to respectfully exit a conversation. So practice it at home with your partner or your kids. Give them a sense of ways to steer out of the accident waiting to happen. So my best advice is not to engage in the back and forth political conversations at holiday events. They're best saved for a quiet one-on-one conversation where you can hear each other's ideas, and ideally not in a party and holiday context. I love this picture. It reminds me of the story from the Bronx Zoo where two male penguins adopted a baby egg and raised it. They named the baby Tango, and it was the first time that two male penguins had adopted and shared a baby together. And penguins mate for life, and they raised little Tango. And so I appreciate it because it's a modification of our family, and whether you're local with your traditional family and connected or not connected, we choose our family. And so during this last year, I hope that you have figured out who the people in your so-called family are and found your little bubble. And these are great people to continue social contact with. And what happens when you're in a bubble is you make an agreement, you keep an open communication. And this is so important in the bubble, because if we don't have an open line of communication, the bubble's going to pop. And that when we are in our bubble, we talk about what's okay in our bubble. And hey, can we plan our gatherings after, no, nobody's been to the store in a week, or maybe we all agree that we're only ordering online, or maybe in our bubble, we get COVID testing before we get together. Maybe in our bubble, we don't wear masks. Maybe in our bubble, we do. Maybe in our bubble, we meet only outdoors. For some bubbles, it's okay to go to school together and to have sleepovers. And there's really not a judgment on your bubble. The most important thing is that you're in very transparent communication with the other people in it, and that you talk about the parameters of what you want that to look like. And when you're creating a bubble, you have to realize you're blending families together. We're moving now beyond the people under our walls, where we have a little bit more control over, and moving into another family. And so sometimes the other people in our bubble might decide we're going on vacation, or we're going to visit our in-laws. We know that it's been months, and Johnny wants to go up and see his mom in Georgia, so we're going to drive up there. And it's important not to shame and judge the people in your bubble. This is what the communication is for. And we talk about it, and you say, okay, I love that you're going to see in-laws in Georgia. How about when you get back, we wait 2 weeks, we go back to our rules, and then we'll plan a date for 2 weeks after you're back, assuming that we're all healthy. And so this doesn't create shame. People don't have to feel bad. We find people now feeling guilty or shameful about their interactions. And it's really important just to be honest about your interactions, so everyone can make an informed decision for their own risk and what they're comfortable with. And then I like improvise. We have to stay flexible. You can't get fixated on things. At the end of the day, if we have a plan and someone's running a fever, we don't want anyone to show up. So we have to be willing to modify. Or maybe we know that they had a potential exposure and we just want to modify. So today we're going to stay home, and instead of our in-person games night, we're going to do an online games night. Again, the most important thing about finding your family, I think it's critical that we continue social contact in a safe way with people. We thrive as a species on our connection to others, and it is having a detrimental effect to stay away from others. But within that contact, be open and transparent. Don't shame and judge, and communicate. This is a really financially stressful year. 1 in 6 Americans are unable to work related to COVID. And last month, 9.9 million were not up to date on their mortgage or rent payments. And about a third of Americans are spending less on their holiday gifts, with a significant portion coming from online purchasing. And in the banking industry, I'm sure you're seeing the impact of people experiencing financial stress, and a lot of people in an unemployed way that they hadn't been before. And so how to manage this as a family, again, communicate, have a conversation. This might be the year to pull a name out of the hat, or to do a secret Santa, or to set a budget, or to have a different type of exchange where we're not having to spend exorbitant amounts. Consider homemade gifts, coupons, like volunteering to babysit, prepare a dinner, give a massage, have a play date, fill up a tank of gas, get extra screen time, things that your kids love and your families love. A movie night with the family, your favorite pack of candy, and staying up late. All of those fun things are free ways, essentially, to give meaningful gifts. Considering repurposing items, doing crafting. They're all great ways to be fiscally responsible, and do not be ashamed to communicate about it. Again, communication is the key to navigating all of this successfully. Again, for Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving is by far my favorite holiday. It starts with thanks, ends with giving, and I am all about gratitude. Jeanette and I mentioned that at the beginning. Having that attitude makes an enormous difference. It shifts our energy from an angry and chaotic state to a perfectly synced heart rhythm, when we focus on gratitude. As it pertains to Thanksgiving, which is a mere 9 days away, I imagine most of you have at least some plans out there. One of the things that I'm going to suggest is, again, open communication. Talk to the people who you would normally share this holiday with. Even if they're out of state, have the conversations. Listen to what their needs are. Express yours. Be responsible about your decision making. Watch out for feelings of guilt and shame. Watch out for feelings about that from your family, from the news media. These are very personal decisions that everyone involved has to make together and communicate through. I think it's great to brainstorm new ways to recreate old traditions. That might be sharing recipes, bringing dishes and swapping dishes. So each person cooks, but we don't eat together. Maybe we get together outside. Maybe we do some virtual activities, sharing our photos, recipes, and stories from past Thanksgiving over Zoom or another platform. Making little gratitude turkeys, with little hands like we did in elementary school, and writing our blessings on each of the fingers. Doing live dinners, setting up the table and the place settings and having the Zoom dinner live. Saying the blessing together. Even on FaceTime, getting together and beginning the meal together. Or as you're cooking, sharing those parts of like, how's your turkey doing? Here's mine. But keeping those connections in different ways and remembering that in terms of our mind, don't set yourself into the expectation of the old tradition. Accept and acknowledge that it is going to be different this year. Accept that others may not be following the guidelines in the way you follow them. Maintain optimism for future Thanksgivings. Part of our modifications this year are in the hopes of getting back to how it was in previous years. And again, and most important through all of it, focus on what you're grateful for. For all of us listening today, we have our life and the ability to share it with others. And at a very base level, be grateful for that breath that you draw in as you give thanks. Some ideas for new traditions might be a holiday night, have your kid or significant other open candy, pajamas, hot chocolate, pick a favorite movie, schedule a game night, old games, new games, card games. There's a great card game online I've become addicted to, Trickster Cards. You can play bridge, spades, hearts, euchre with anybody, anywhere. So family of four can play from wherever they are. Virtual board games, there's Monopoly, all these different games online. Creating a time capsule. I don't even know what to put in a 2020 time capsule, but that would be a certainly interesting one. There's going to be a lot of 2020 things for the years to come. And so maybe it is a good year to do a time capsule. Create an ugly sweater contest. Be creative in the ways you envision how to have fun this year with the holidays. And keep it in perspective. Be realistic about your expectations for yourselves and others. Figure out what's achievable. Maybe it's not achievable to get the family of 30 together in the mountains like we do on our normal Thanksgivings, or to take our favorite Disney cruise like we do every Thanksgiving. These are probably not in the cards this Thanksgiving. Maybe we all put on our Mickey ears and we have our favorite part of that cruise together. Again, recognize your feelings and recognize that the next couple months are going to be tough. And the long-term benefits are why we're making the short-term changes. There's always a short-term cost when we have a long-term goal in mind. Remembering that being responsible now, making small sacrifices, pays off in the long run. And together, we will get through this. I'm a big deal on mental health. This is my thing. So pick a quote, intention, mantra, and commit to it for your holiday season. Post it, write it in lipstick on your mirror, stick it in places for yourself, a little post-it note in your pocket, and pull it out when you need it. For some, it's the serenity prayer. For some, it might be one word like peace. Maybe it's hope. Whatever it is, have a mantra that you're committed to and pull it out when you're feeling stressful. And there is science behind this. When we engage in mantras and meditations, again, we become in a more relaxed and synced heart rate, and we're able to listen, think more creatively, and handle our stress. Be aware of your breaking point. take breaks. If you get overwhelmed, delegate responsibilities. Focus on the things you can control, not the things you can't. Stay focused on the present tense. What does your mind and body read right now? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you tired? Do you need a break? Do you need exercise? Engage in joyful and recharging activities every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. Gratitude. There is not enough practicing of gratitude. You can't practice it enough. If you lived every minute of your life practicing gratitude, you would have an extraordinarily blessed life, literally, right? If that's all you're doing is counting your blessings, you never stop counting and you're full of them. Be okay with your boundaries. Be okay to say no. Keep your sleep and exercise routine. Limit those indulgences. Like I said, bad food, alcohol, they increase our inflammation and make us more susceptible to illness. If you're sad, struggling, stressed, reach out and ask for help. Be kind, patient, forgiving with yourself and others. And realize it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay. Talk with your therapy. Talk with your doctor, see if therapy, maybe even medications are an appropriate choice for you. I included some family-friendly activities in South Florida. And this is sent, Jeanette has a copy of the slide, so you'll all have copies of things that you can do safely in South Florida, as well as some resources that are available in crisis, for grief, and with food, as we're a very food insecure society right now. And with the last few minutes, I'd love it if anyone has any questions or comments that they'd like to make.
Yeah, actually, Dr. Lisa, yesterday we had a discussion with another one of our therapists, and I was telling her that what I did after the election was I shut my social media down, just took kind of a breather, and she gave it a label. She called it virtual distancing, which I thought was a really cool kind of little, way to label it. But I find that it really helped me just kind of de-stress a little bit over the whole, not just the election, but just being sort of overwhelmed with what's going on in the media. And I think because we are sort of trapped at home, working from home, watching the news, paying attention to the weather, sometimes creating that distance is really takes a load off, and it's made a huge difference for me. I set my social media to reactivate in a week, and I think I actually may extend that a little bit more because I really like it, and there's automatically there's this sense of obligation. It's gone. I don't have to respond. I don't have to look at the posts. I don't have to deal with that. And I know it sounds silly, but, I thought, well, you know what? It was more of a social experiment to myself because I don't really get wrapped up in that. But when I did it is when I realized, wow, it really does affect me too. So I can imagine that there may be children, there may be parents on this call today that may have kids that are really impacted, where a lot of how they interact normally under regular non-COVID circumstances is through social media, right? So yeah. I would imagine you probably see this in your practice. The other thing about Thanksgiving that I wanted to share was usually every year the bank gets very involved in different charitable organizations. I personally do a lot of volunteer work. This year, with the restrictions being what they are, I won't be able to serve meals at the shelter, but they are taking donations. So there's like a drive up where you can drop off your canned goods or whatever you want to drop off. And so I'll be doing that, but there's always a way to give back, even if you can't physically be there to serve the meals or whatever it is you do. It's a pretty nice feeling to be able to help someone else, like you said, especially now.
And as you're saying that, Jeanette, I think, every year, and I'm just realizing it now, I always donate food through my children's schools, who most schools have some regular sort of food drive that gets donated. And with schools also not in the same way, those food drives aren't occurring either.
Right. So that's the resources that you provided for people to kind of look into. I think we really have to look for those opportunities now because they're not really in our face, and I think they're so limited in terms of their outreach and what they can do as far as soliciting people in the community to help. I think we kind of have a social responsibility now to say, all right, look, what can I do to go out and find a charity or an organization or a way to give back. So I think the burden falls on us now to kind of do that. There are many, many people. We are very fortunate at the bank.
Play that, Jeanette. I'm going to say the blessing falls on us because we're
Yeah.
actually in a position where we can. And the people who need these blessings are burdened with the inability to do it. And when
Yeah.
we do it, when we give either financially and even more importantly, our time, we receive back so much emotionally that the cost is minimal compared to what we and the others gain through our giving.
Yeah, that's an incredible way to put it for sure. And I think that it really resonates with a lot of people on the call today because we have been very lucky that we have not been impacted by COVID in terms of our employment. We still have our medical insurance. We get a paycheck every 2 weeks. None of that's changed. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I made a comment yesterday, and I'll close with this, that the other day when I was loading my groceries in my refrigerator, I just happened to catch a glimpse of my full fridge. And for some reason that day on Sunday, it just really kind of moved me to think, like, I normally don't ever think twice about it, but here I am looking at a fully stocked fridge. I didn't even think twice about going to grocery shopping and buying everything I wanted and needed. And that's not the situation now, and so I took a picture of it, and I was just, I don't know, somehow it just kind of stuck with me, and I thought, all right, I got to get my canned goods together and just really kind of, get out there and try to get to a couple of different charities or churches or synagogues, whatever. But it really, I think it just, it just hit me at that particular moment. And those are the moments that really inspire us to kind of do good in the community. And I think that if we can inspire other people to do that, then we are definitely doing our part to help everyone. And that really is what Thanksgiving is all about. I mean, I know it's, we love the turkey and the food and the overindulgence, but ironically, during a time when we should be giving thanks to people who don't have anything, we're overindulging. So I think, there's a little bit of a contradiction there, but maybe this is a year that people can really embrace, the new Thanksgiving, right?
Let us give thanks by giving.
Exactly. So I think that's a great, healthy way to look at it. And, as I said when we jumped on the call, the focus is really on mental health, as it should be. It really drives all of our behaviors, not just about health and physical health, but a lot of our decisions are made from a space where when we're healthy, we tend to make better decisions than when we're not feeling whole. I think we can all speak to that, and we have had personal experiences with that. And the information that you provided, I do have a copy. I will be posting it on the Bank United intranet. But if anybody wants the slide presentation, just reach out to me. I'm happy to email that to you with all those resources. And as I said, Dr. Lisa Saponara will be with us again, hopefully once more before year end, and then possibly going into the new year, we'll have a series of different discussions that I'm sure people will get something out of. So we really appreciate your time, Dr. Lisa. Go save the world. I know you're busy, and we appreciate you. And for the employees, thank you guys for joining. If you have any questions about the wellness program deadline, you know how to reach me. My email has been a little bit overwhelmed now that we're approaching the deadline, December 1. But feel free to reach out to me. I'm pretty responsive, and I hope everyone takes what was discussed today and maybe goes out and thinks about how they can pay that forward. So again, thank you, Dr. Lisa. It's always good to see you, and thanks everybody for joining. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Lisa.